An AI agent built this control system. It modeled the motor, designed the controller, ran the simulation, and tuned the response. I never clicked inside Simulink. I have spent 19 years in electrical and electronics engineering with a focus on control systems. So today I'm doing two experiments in one. I'm giving Claude Code a real engineering task, and two, I'm making it do that task in MATLAB and Simulink. After that, I check the AI's work just like how a senior engineer would check a junior engineer's work. Why? Because just because the AI can build the thing and simulate it, that doesn't necessarily mean that the models it used are correct. This year, MathWorks released two open source toolkits. The reason why this matters as an engineer is because this is the first time AI is operating the same tool that you operate right in front of you, where you can audit every move it takes. The complete setup only took me 8 minutes. I cloned the GitHub repository, launched Claude Code, asked Claude to set itself up. The setup function downloaded the MATLAB MCP server, configured the agent, and registered the skills. I asked Claude to build a Simulink model of a brushed DC motor from first principles, model the electrical side as an armature resistance and inductance driven by input voltage, the mechanical side as a rotor inertia with viscous friction, and couple them through the torque constant and the back EMF constant. Expose motor speed as the output, okay. Use realistic, it'll probably be in radians per second. Use realistic parameters for a small hobby class motor and cite where each parameter came from. Notice what I asked for. I didn't say make a motor block, just like some vague statement. I asked for the physical structure, the electrical equation, the mechanical equation, and the two constants that couple them. A DC motor is two systems exchanging energy. Voltage pushes current through the winding. Current makes torque. Torque spins the rotor, and the spinning rotor generates a voltage that pushes back against the power supply. That back and forth is the whole machine. If the agent's model has that structure, then it understands the system. If it drops to the back EMF path, it builds only a toy model. Okay, I need to check a few things here to make sure this is done correctly. Number one, we've got the voltage supply and the loop. Okay, so we start with the voltage supply. It goes through here and it should generate a current, which it does, IA. The current generated a torque, yes, and the torque gives us a rotor speed. That rotor speed would create a back EMF. Now this is the important thing. The back EMF should be accounted for in the loop as a negative feedback. The fact that it even knows to do that is just insane to me. Okay, so we got the negative feedback and it goes back. Yes, the minus for that summing block. That's a pass. So the next check is a physics check. The KT, the torque constant, and then KE, the back EMF. If the AI faked some numbers, these would not be equal, but they are supposed to be equal. They're looking at the same energy, so to speak, from the mechanical side and from the electrical side. So let's go into MATLAB and look at the workspace values. Here we have KE 0.0186, and here we go. KT is also 0.0186. Good job. Physics pass. Now, there's a time constant in the electrical that's supposed to be much shorter than the time constant in mechanical. I'd run some numbers here, and the numbers we'd look at would be RA, which is the winding resistance, and then we have the winding inductance, and this is in Henry, so this is 1.5 millihenry. We want to divide LA by RA. That'll give us our time constant. So L underscore A divided by R underscore A gives us 0.75 milliseconds. Now compare that to the time constant for the rotor. You need things like your inertia, or Jm, multiplied by our winding resistance and then divided by the product of Kt and Ke right here. Once we run those numbers, right, let's do this. All right, so I type this in here, and what answer do we get? 28.8 milliseconds. So 28.8 divided by 0.75 milli, that's a factor of 38.4 difference. That makes sense. Okay, so if these numbers were flipped, as in the rotor had a much shorter time constant than the electrical side, we know we'd have a problem. The fact that this works out, the motor has significantly higher, 38.4 times higher time constant the physics checks out. When we look at the time, check out this stop time. It stopped at 0.25 seconds. Why did it choose that? So somehow it knew to calculate the measurement window in about 8 cycles, close to 9 cycles of the motor rotation. All right, I am very impressed with this motor performance. I mean, it did a bang up job. Now, this would pass a design review, but what happens when we add the controller? Now design a PID speed controller for this motor. I want the closed loop step response to settle fast with small overshoot. And I want the controller to respect a supply limit. The control signal is a voltage and it cannot exceed the supply rail. Yep. Add the actuator saturation to the model. Tune the gains. Run the closed loop simulation and explain every tuning decision you make. This is crazy. Can it do it? So I planted a trap in this prompt. The saturation requirement sounds like a little detail. And it's this detail that separates simulation from real hardware. An ideal PID controller will happily command 500 volts or something crazy to hit a fast settling time. And the simulation will look beautiful because nothing in an unlimited model says no. But we're dealing with real components. A real motor driver has a supply rail. The moment the controller saturates, the integrator is going to keep accumulating errors that it can't do anything with. It can't act on those. So the output is going to wind up, so to speak, and the response will overshoot long after the plot said that it wouldn't. This failure has a name, integrator windup, and it's ended more first prototypes than any wiring mistake. I want to see whether the agent knows whether this exists. All right, this did a bang up job. It ran through a few issues and it also noted them in the chat or its outputs. But the most important part here is the saturation, and it knew to add anti-windup. It showed that without anti-windup, it had 19.7% overshoot, but with anti-windup, 0% overshoot and 1/4 the settling time compared to if it didn't have anti-windup. Fantastic. So this is a complete pass. Let's go to the next part of the review. Now the PID controller for the motor, this is the loop around the motor. Did it do it correctly? We have the motor, which is modeled here. Excellent. The back EMF is accounted for. Let's go back up. And now we have the speed reference, the PID controller, the supply rail, and our results window. And if I open the controller, it gives me the values here. Fantastic. We already verified that this motor makes sense, so we're going to look into the one thing that tests your control loop very well, your controller. It's the step response. Now here's the closed loop step response. Look at that. It shows us the with anti-windup and without anti-windup versions. Without anti-windup, it overshoots. With anti-windup, it doesn't overshoot. It settles in much faster. The control voltage, yeah, it saturates, okay? Without that saturation, we'd be getting these imaginary numbers that you can't get in the real world. Now, what I'm gonna do is a quick little test. I'm gonna push the reference up. So if I push this up, this WRF, copy that and change it to 500, for example, then rerun this, what do we get in the results? Oh, wow, it stays where it's supposed to. This is crazy. AI agents are here. So here's what it did. It did the physics. It modeled the physics properly. It understood the situation and know that it needed to add it anti-windup. It actually even found a little bug I didn't even know existed in Simulink and worked around it. I put the details in the description on that bug. It did everything right, and even comparing the anti-windup result versus the non-anti-windup result in output. And it knew to add certain things I didn't even ask for, but it knew to add them. I don't know if it's the skill or the AI and how it's trained itself, but this is absolutely phenomenal. And now the only way I'm able to know this though is because I've had 19 years of experience doing these kinds of simulations and over a decade in MATLAB. Once you've developed the experience, then you know what correct looks like. All right, so here's my assessment after running this experiment. I must say I'm very impressed. This AI agent turned what normally would take at least an hour, a couple hours to get this kind of simulation up and running. It did it in a few minutes, 8 minutes to be exact. Now, Even though the AI did a magnificent job at finding out how to add that anti-windup and catching the outputs, hoping that the AI agent might do that versus having someone who's trained to know to always do that is a key difference. It's important to have engineers who know the trade-offs, who know the stakes, and are making these decisions based on real hardware and real money. As I tell people, it's not about the tool. The tool only implements the engineering that you already need to know. So it's the underlying principles beneath solving the problem. The tool just helps you implement that. So that's why I'm going to keep making videos about the underlying physics of things and the underlying engineering, because it's those engineers who understand those fundamentals in physics that are going to manage and supervise these AI agents and machines. If you want the exact prompts I use so you can do this yourself, they are in the description below. And subscribe if you want to see my next experiment, because I'm going to keep raising the difficulty until the agent breaks.